with you. All right.
Phil, a joy.
Hello, how are you? In
I'm
such
good,
a
Phil. How you
strange
doing?
and weird world we're in. I hope you're well. 1,000 blessings to you.
So, Phil, I told you before I hit the record button that you got a lot of love in the comments, and people said that I keep cutting you off, and I've told you to shut up.
Well, you do tend to abuse me because I'm a big guy and you're constantly punching up, but that's okay. I love you like my sister, and it's we're in tune, we're in sync, and I have a lot of love to give, so I appreciate the love. There's,
Yeah, but people should know that you tell me to shut
humanity
up
is my
sometimes
family,
too.
so I have that. Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate
So we're here. So we're here again arguing about Gypsy Rose, where right away you're saying, because I was saying something to you about Gypsy and about Disney and how Disney shouldn't let her in there, and you got on the topic of her mom's behavior, and you feel like I'm whitewashing Dee Dee. I mean, that I'm whitewashing her
I
behavior
did. I
is what
used
you
that
think.
exact term. I think that there's a tilt going on in terms of, this new evidence that the daughter was actually sick and the mother was onto something. Her hunch as a mother had paid off. Evidence had finally confirmed that, but she still had a life that was involved with grift, and she was trying to have an income, and she wasn't working to any degree that would make the level of income that she had to keep up the lifestyle that they had achieved. And you would mention that she got to go to a bunch of Disney trips, and I'm going to see the daughter as not being as actively engaged in making that grift happen than the mother. The mother would have been the one to press the levers and identify, yes, my daughter's still sick, and oh, thank you, we'll take your trip and have a life and do whatever it was. That was her process that she was getting off on because she was involved too. The mother was involved with, there was a duality there of eventual crime that would lead the daughter to her choices. But they were both involved to a degree, and the mother was primary. She had to be. The
Okay.
daughter had to learn from the mother. So
Okay.
that's my
So
contention. Thank you for letting me express that.
you
Well, no. It's discipline. She's showing discipline. She can learn. She ain't no old dog. I love my sister. She's brilliant.
so listen. So here's the thing. You're saying I agree. A crime is a crime is a crime. You've got that. I'll give you that. So okay. So when you write a bad check, she did. When you get caught stealing, yes, it's a crime. But I think my problem with what you're implying is that, see, I see it as a woman who was left alone with a sick kid, and an unruly sick kid at that, and legitimately sick, where they didn't know what was going on with her. Gypsy legitimately would stop breathing at night when she was a baby, like a child, baby. And because even her grandfather said that the machine would go off and Dee Dee would have to run in there. So here she is, she's on her own raising this sick kid. And as you know, when you're younger, the ailments, a lot of ailments you'll grow out of, right? Usually. And so Gypsy, of course, grew out of the ailments, but Gypsy also complicated the ailments, sometimes by telling untruths, like I told you last time with her legs, when she said, the feelings in her legs and the things she kept from her mom and this and that. But also there was a legitimate sickness and legitimate ailments there that Gypsy had to have surgery for her eyes or she'd be blind today. She had to have the salivary glands, um, some of them taken out because she was having a problem with too much saliva and choking on saliva and such. So the surgeries that she has done has been proven needed, right? So here's a woman all on her own. Her husband's in arrears, doesn't even want to see his kid to even come and give Dee Dee a break, to come and take her on vacation. No, he says no, he's not going to do that. And so she's all alone, desperate with a sick kid. So I see her not trying to take advantage of a system and have a grift per se. I see it as survival with a sick kid that you really don't know what's wrong with. And the
Well, I
only
think
thing
that
I
that's
can honestly say, that I feel like I could say in confidence that she's made up was Gypsy's age. That's the only thing. And the other ailments, I can't say that she actually made those up because I don't know that, and there's
I
still
hear
stuff coming out.
that's not the part of the deceit that would put some culpability on her as having raised a child in a grift, in a dual crime that eventually would lead to her own demise and her own end. And to
Well,
some
but why
degree,
do you say
I
that
look,
that leads?
I agree to maybe softening the whole Munchausen by proxy and accusing her of abusing her child and all the things that went with it. But she had an underlying pattern to having an income, to utilizing her daughter's
No, she
illness.
worked. She worked before. She
She
did
did
work.
previously, but she still practiced this level of deceit to bring money and income and things beyond by identifying her daughter's condition to do that. She accepted charity, and granted knows
Yeah,
charity
but her
was there,
daughter was
but
legitimately sick.
she did more than just actively accept charity. I can't point to anything right now. I'm just going by from what I remember the situation of Claudine Blanchard being involved with providing this lifestyle to her child based on this child's illness. There was more than just the Munchausen. And so when you're in an environment where crime is occurring, there is culpability. Is all I'm saying. I don't want to cloud the woman or taint her reputation or anything like that. I don't speak ill of the dead for whatever. But when you're talking and I'm hearing it, I feel that there is a tilt there more towards the daughter, and to me, that's the part that is fraught with real problems because she's an innocent, a clean slate up until she does this and starts taking on her role as a crime, like acting sick or tilting her head and playing down or not answering quite whatever she was, that she was the partner in crime to the mother that she got involved with, but that requires training. And up until that point she was the clean slate of a child that she deserves more accordance of innocence because of her child state than the mother is.
So,
And that seems the natural tilt.
okay, so let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
So I believe that there is a tilt when it comes to Dee Dee and the fact that she was raked over the coals and it was wrong because of all the new stuff that came out. So we're trying to, I'm going to speak for myself, trying to correct that by saying, wait, some of the stuff that she was accused of was in fact, there's legitimate elements here. There wasn't a Munchausen by proxy. She dedicated her life to saving her daughter's life. She made her daughter number one. Her daughter will tell you that. Her daughter said the worst thing, I mean, before Gypsy started lying, seriously, the worst thing she said before she needed her defense, even when she was in jail, before the defense came up with the Munchausen by proxy, she said the worst thing was that her mom made her the center of her universe. But in the meantime, she says that she exaggerated ailments to keep her mom's attention. So let me ask you this, the
Yeah,
question.
I
So
can
do
only
you think,
imagine
wait, do
that
you
happened.
think, wait, do you think, because you said, we're going to give her this because of the child's innocence, do you think every child coming into this world is a good person just from birth?
Absolutely. A tabula rasa, they are a clean slate. They learn from their environment and the stimuli around them, not necessarily something that's going to come out of them inherently or some other thing that they're bringing into the world is a viable thing that you could put on someone. There may be genetic inclinations. There may be all sorts of propensities that the body has to gain fat or gain muscle or a higher metabolism, whatever. Those are some of the things that you're bringing to the table. But emotionally, clean slate. Mentally, you're a clean slate. You learn from your environment. And
so you don't believe in a bad seed?
No, absolutely. I don't. Well, I don't practice that at all. But my sense is that when it comes to her, she went very bad. She went bad beyond expectations, and if you using the term to be dramatic, became evil as a result of this. I'm not going to at all say the mother is responsible for that. A lot of that is the choices that the
Good,
daughter
because
made.
you don't think Dee
You
Dee's
can't, because then you're
responsible.
blaming the woman for her own death, and you can't.
Yeah, that's
do
what
that.
I was asking. That's what,
Yeah,
so,
I would-
because
of
you
course
said
not.
that this had something to do with her death, where I stopped myself, but I wanted to remember.
Hey, look,
what
I come from
you
people who throw
implied
you a
was
beating and then ask you, what did you do wrong?
what
After they
that
throw you the beating. When you were a kid, that's the way they were. So I understand that very much. But when it comes to this, it seems as if the whatever it was that the mother was doing was providing the environment to the degree that crimes were occurring, and the daughter herself went off the deep edge and became what you would call evil. She became murderous. She considered she was involved with matricide, one of the greatest crimes on earth. Because the Divine Mother is something to be respected no matter where you are. One of the great crimes I feel is when I see the news and the bombings and everything, and the mothers that are suffering this, it breaks. There is no. So I give a chord to Dee Dee Claudine Blanchard. I see her as a divine mother. Yes, she was doing everything she can to help her child. Yes, she had a sense that there was something else wrong with her child that the doctors weren't getting at, and then it turned out to be the case. Yes, all that is the case. Does that change what she did that would have provided the environment and continued the kinds of things that she did when she was before she had a child? She was deceitful apparently before she had a child. You got
I don't know. I don't know about that.
petty
That I
theft
don't.
or,
Whoa, whoa,
well, I
whoa,
just
whoa,
remember
no,
that from the record.
no. But wait a minute. I don't know if that was before, so I can't speak on that. I don't
Well, that
know
would
if
have
it
been
was
before the
before.
child's birth. This is before
I don't
she.
know. I don't know if it was before. I don't remember. There's so much stuff, but I know
Okay,
that
yeah,
you
no,
wrote bad
yeah.
checks.
So, but again, not try to speak ill of you have to consider, and I'm sure it's an academic case study if someone were to take the time and to look at it as a behavioral event in a sociological way, that there is a very gray area there, a very painful area there, where the mother to some degree provided an environment that led to her own death. And how did she do that?
I
Well,
am not gonna
feeding a
know that.
child
I'm not gonna.
that, feeding the bad wolf in the child that became murderous and had murderous intent. And where did that come from? The
Yeah.
influences on the internet. Could we do that like they did back in the 80s and 90s? She was listening to rap music and heard, you screw your mother, screw your daddy, or whatever it is, and she went off the deep end. Are there any number of influences we can point to? Sure, that is a case study. It's an academic research project on trying to get at what this person's motive, and hopefully it would also include interviews with her and even interviews post the subject matter to get at what was thinking, what was the motivation, what were the feelings, what was she going on with her.
She
But as
doesn't
far
tell
as,
the truth about anything.
right,
She doesn't tell
I'm
the.
not going to make Claudine out to be a saint, doing the right
Nobody's
thing
trying
to
to
her
make her out
daughter.
to be a saint.
Okay,
And
all
I'm
right,
not
so
trying to make her out to be a saint. But I'm saying that Gypsy is much more responsible, in my opinion. I mean, Dee Dee was
without
trying
a
to
doubt,
survive. I'm not
she
saying,
caused
okay,
the
so you
mother's
can't
death.
cut me off when I start
But I'm
talking either.
saying, without a doubt.
Yeah, but you're cutting me off.
I didn't mean to. I was
Okay,
confirmed.
so
I waited for the timely pause and jumped on top of it.
I didn't do that.
I know.
So
Well, you've been very good. I'm impressed.
you're taking advantage of it. That's why I jump on them, guys. Now you know why. I'll go on and on and on. But we're gonna play it this way. We'll play it this way this time.
Okay, you're
So
saying bad things about me. I'm not going to go on.
right in front of your face, mate. You're right here. So the problem with what you're saying, in my opinion, is that you hold, I think, too much. Gypsy was over 20. She was like 23 years old when she committed the crime. Okay, with Nick. Okay, she could have left 5 years ago. She could have left 5 years before. So Gypsy could have left any time after 18. Shit, she did leave plenty of times to go see people, to go, hook up with a man who was much older than her.
But what does that say to you?
That says to me that she could have left anytime she wanted to. She certainly didn't have to unalive her mom. Absolutely no reason. And she had her own free will. She had her own free will with her own mind. And I do believe in bad seeds. So you and I, just because you don't believe it doesn't mean it's not true. And just because I do believe it doesn't make it true as well. So we're not going to agree there.
But let's get at it. For 5 years, she could have left as an adult of legal age. And she doesn't. Why doesn't she do that? It's not because she's a bad seed. A bad seed would want to get out and get away from anyone else, right? They'd want to go out and do bad things.
Because first they'd have to be able to make it in this world. They'd have to be able to make it in this world. So her mother was doing everything
there are
for
lots
her.
of people on the street that they do everything
You're
they
talking about
possibly can to make it in this world too. It's not a corporate adventure. She's not going to get a job. Clearly, she was involved with her mother to the degree that she didn't want to leave for 5 years. Maybe her mother
She supposedly loved her mother until she needed this alibi.
But the capacity of her coherence during that 5 years to have a sense of herself enough to go, I don't want to kill my mother. I should just get up and leave, is damaged somewheres to the 18 years that led to that point.
She would have.
There's a causal relationship there between what choices that woman made for the 5 years that she could have gotten up and left, and the relationship she had with her mother, and whatever drama that existed between them. Maybe they were a happy partnership for 4 of those 5 years, and then it went bad because she started.
Well, that's what we're trying to find out. What happened? That's what we're trying to find out. What happened there? But yeah, there's videos. Well, wait, stop. There's videos that we have seen of Dee Dee. None of these videos shows any nastiness to Dee Dee. And it shows nothing that Gypsy's afraid of with her mother. You mean
during the 18 to 23 period? Now, this is during her adult life. Did they have a relationship as adults?
Yeah, I mean, during her adult life, yeah. I mean, yeah. And Gypsy
How many years of those 5 years was she in the wheelchair?
Well, Gypsy was in the wheelchair the whole time. As a matter of fact, a couple days before, like 48 hours before the unaliving takes place, her mother is pushing her in a hospital in her wheelchair and Gypsy's sitting crisscross applesauce.
But doesn't that speak to them keeping up the grift together as a team?
No, because something actually had to happen. They actually had an appointment at that hospital. I think they were going to there was something at the hospital that they were legitimately doing. I don't know if it had to do with their feeding tube, or Gypsy thought that there was some procedure that was done at the hospital that was legitimate. All of the procedures seem to be legitimate now. They seem to all be, there was a reason for them. There wasn't any that there wasn't. All the surgeries. The 40, she said there was 40, there was 4. There was 4.
The questions, I believe, earlier were that the mother was able to influence the doctors to do surgeries. And, that's something that's a medical case review that doctors really need to sit down and tell us. And according to the court record, they did. And they found the mother culpable of Munchausen's to the degree.
You can't diagnose a dead person with Munchausen. You can't. And they didn't. It was the lawyer.
But they cut Gypsy Rose a deal based on these principles that the doctor had revealed. I mean, it had to be something. You're saying that
there was a re-election of the DA, Dan Patterson.
Yeah, but
There was a ring.
nobody gives away a crime like that. I mean,
Yeah, they didn't give it away. Nick took it. Remember Nick? Nick's
yeah, of
doing life.
course he took it, but
He's doing life.
you clearly have the daughter as a part of this crime, and it seems like Missouri. We talked about this once already. Completely dropped the ball as far as getting at the
Of course.
truth. They wanted to just settle a case, and a lot of legal jurisdictions do that. 95% of cases are settled outside of a courtroom. You don't actually make it into court, and the glut of the courts being buried under the 5% that's out there is.
Well, Gypsy took a plea deal.
I know she did, but I'm saying, nonetheless, the reason why she took a plea deal is because that's the order of business. Plea deals are the order of business. 95% of people in jail are in jail because of pleas they took, not because they actually got adjudicated in front of a judge or a jury.
Well, they're not in jail because of that. They're in jail because of a crime. They might get off with a conviction that was less than because of a plea deal.
Right, but the prosecutor's office deals by getting people to accept their culpability.
I know.
Get them to admit their guilt. They give you the high ball and the low ball, just like a sales pitch. And the
we
low
can
ball
have a
is
whole argument about that. I don't know that they're working on the side of justice anymore.
No, and the arc of morality is very long on this one.
I mean, it's just like next. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So,
with all these perfect storm elements, though, I still tried to find some balance and give the daughter some credit as a human being born with a blank slate that was in an environment that went bad, that made her turn, murderous. I see that the trigger was there.
That. So let me just tell you this. She did try to unalive her mom 2 times before at her own hand. One time was with a BB gun, or a pellet gun, I should say, a pellet gun, where she and Dee Dee went to the hospital, and Dee Dee said that it was in the Walmart parking lot, and it was other people. She didn't tell on her daughter. But actually, somebody just showed the emergency room reports they showed where Dee Dee was shot and stuff. Like, they had the actual reports where they showed how many times she was shot and where. So, see, Gypsy had this in her for a while. And then the other time had to do
trigger on a BB gun. That's something without a doubt. But
a pellet gun. Apparently a pellet gun. Yeah. Doesn't matter. She thought it was real. She said that. She said she unloaded it and she didn't realize that yeah. So why didn't she just leave?
That is the question because you think that if somebody actually has evil in their heart and they are criminal, they'd be out there doing evil and criminal. But here she is.
I think that they are. I think that they are.
But she's staying here at home with her mother, and she's still involved in a relationship, and she gets into this tussle because a lot of this generation of kids stay home till they're 30.
What tussle?
For whatever reason, the tussle because she's trying to have independence and have her own voice as an adult, and she doesn't always want to play the role or whatever it was.
But her mom's not squashing that, because there's plenty of videos and such now that show that Gypsy had a lot of autonomy.
She did have lots of autonomy. Okay. Some of that she made for herself, though, after her mother went to bed, right?
Or when her mother went out when her mother went out shopping. Like, she's put out there so many videos. Some at the day, most of the daytime, really, to be honest with you. So she wasn't under lock and key like she would have us believe now.
But during the daytime when Dee Dee's there, she has her, stay away from the windows or whatever it is, so people can't look and see that she's walking around, and tells her to go back to her chair, or whatever the drama was that existed between. I just think there's some mother-daughter tussle going on between them for them to have stayed together for that 5 years. It's not because of criminal intent. Criminal intent develops out of that, and it turns fatal.
Well, everybody has problems with family. I don't want to get into that, but we all have problems with family. Like, I mean, you and me were button heads and stuff, but the thing is that it's gone beyond that. I can see where, regardless of how a parent treats us, we still want love from that parent. Yes. So, right. Regardless of,
Well, there's
wait
so
a minute,
much school of thought on it now, but
regardless
it's
of
not even
how,
so much that we want love for parents. What we really want for our parents, from our parents, is for them to show up for us. And that's where Dee Dee was in a relationship with her daughter. She was showing up for her daughter. And Gypsy, to whatever degree, must have kept showing up to Dee Dee's standard until she couldn't, until she had to veer and express her own
yeah, I
thing.
don't like that terminal, until she couldn't because it was forced upon her, is the way I'm taking that. And I'm not agreeing with that.
Well, I say
The way
couldn't,
your
meaning
verbiage is,
Gypsy personally couldn't deal with it anymore and wouldn't do it. Couldn't, wouldn't, and she hit her own boundary. And clearly there are layers of narcissism and borderline personality potential language that you can apply to all of this. And what we really want from our parents is just be there for us. I know you love me. Love is such a
but her
nebulous thing.
mother was
We
there
should
all the
hope,
time.
but
But see, that
at the
goes against
practical
what,
level, get them to
but
be there for us.
yeah, but she was there and then some for her. As a matter
This
of
is what
fact,
I'm saying.
Gypsy said out of her own mouth, like, this isn't something I read, this is something I watched and heard her say, that her mother made her her entire universe. All she had to do was exist.
Well, and so do you see that as something bad in Gypsy? I mean, maybe that's also something she doesn't know how to process. How do you process it? You see
No,
other people have lives,
I was showing you
and
who
then
Dee
you
Dee
see
was.
your
Oh,
mother
wait a
have
minute,
this.
wait. I wasn't showing you who Gypsy was. I was showing you who Dee Dee was by Gypsy's own words.
I get that, but
Okay.
Gypsy's formulating the words, so she's seeing something that she may not know how to process. She's expressing something that she emotionally can't factor because she looks around and she sees other people and they have multiple people in their worlds. But here's her mother who's made her the sole figure in her
Wow.
world. So how do you process that? And maybe that it becomes antithetical. It becomes an angry point. She becomes a source. Now, every time I see my mother, I have rage for her because as much as she loves me and as much as she's there for me, she's also the source of my problems. She's the
Wait a
source of
minute. Whoa. Why isn't her
the
dad
source
the
of my
source? Wait a minute.
limitations.
Why isn't her dad the source of the problems? The guy that didn't
That's
show
not
up.
the picture. Out of
Wait a
sight,
minute.
out of mind.
Wait. Let me finish. Who didn't show up, but who was busy raising a family somewhere else? Who knew? Now we know he knew where she was the whole time, because there's emails where Gypsy's texting or emailing and saying that her mom had to have gallbladder surgery, I think it was, and everybody was wishing her well, including the stepmom, who now has nothing nice to say about Dee Dee. Oh, tell Mama Dee Dee we wish her well. And even Rod, the dad, after Gypsy gets arrested, Rod said, your mom was a good mama and she was a really good wife and a good mama. Too bad she just didn't want to let you see boys. That's what he had said in a recording.
All right, so there is culpability that goes to the father, without a doubt, but he's not in the picture, so he's not part of
But
the
if you're
dynamic
making
of,
Gypsy, if
because
you're
again,
making Dee Dee responsible for Gypsy, then you've got to make the absence of the man in her life who was raising another family, who absolutely, and I'm not doing this to shame Gypsy, it's all over the internet. I'm doing this just to prove, to bring more to my case in the argument here, that Gypsy sent inappropriate photos to her dad. And that's a big thing going on. Like, that's huge. So I don't want to ignore her dad's absence while we're talking here. I know that we're talking about Dee Dee, but you're saying because of A, B, C, and D. And I'm saying, no, that's not the whole of Gypsy. The whole of Gypsy is A through Z, and Rod is in there. And he needs to be included.
yeah, well, he does need to be included, but again, he's outside the bubble of what's happening in the moment. In the moment, it's the mother and daughter, the framework that exists there. The daughter is lesser. The mother is greater. She's older. The daughter doesn't understand. How does the mother make me the sole figure of her world when everybody else has other people in their worlds and they know how to live in their worlds? How does and maybe she's angry at that. Maybe there's some other dynamic there. I don't know. I'm just saying there's a process that maybe Gypsy didn't know how to handle the fact that she was the gravity of her mother's presence was making her the sole center of it. And maybe there's some culpability that goes both ways without a doubt. We can, again, it's an academic exercise. And add the third ingredient, the father's not in the picture. So he doesn't have.
But let's make it clear so people don't think you're heartless. Let's make it clear. Let's make it clear so that people. Let's make it clear so that people don't think you're heartless. You don't think Dee Dee has any culpability in her death?
Of course not. No.
Okay, I just want to make that clear. Because the last statement could be taken that way. That's why I want to make that clear. It's an
exercise for academic study. It's so nebulous to get at what motivations or what the behaviors were, to get at the truth. God knows there's so much fiction coming from Gypsy and misinformation from other things. And then there was the fictional take that they did for Lifetime or whatever TV station that was. There's a morass there to get at. But it is a source that it would be valuable to understand. How does a daughter kill her mother? What are the elements that go to that?
Well, if you ask Gypsy, she says, you get an autistic guy to do it for you.
Well, not to laugh at that, but I actually know I'm in a mother-daughter.
Well, that's our relationship, right, man. This is our relationship, you know.
All right, well, I know that. That's true. But, and not to be morbid on camera, but I'm in the middle of a mother-daughter situation now, I could say.
Are you the mother or the daughter?
No, I'm trying to give care to someone older who is in relationship, who's out of a relationship, who is her daughter.
Don't get too personal here.
No,
please
of course not. And okay. I see that dynamic. Now, the one wants to hate the other, and the other is just hurt by the other. So maybe when
like Dee I said, there is.
Maybe when Dee Dee expressed hurt that Gypsy was doing this or doing that or defying her this way or saying this or doing, and maybe when she expressed that would be crushing. And Gypsy wouldn't know how to process that. Would be crushing for both of them. And it creates distance. But instead, Gypsy turns it into a murderous affair. That is on her. But did the state of Missouri give her the full responsibility of that? No. And clearly she should have gotten some of that, even if she didn't push the knife. She manipulated the person who did. And clearly he's someone who's caught in his own fantasy. And those buttons are pressed. But there are elements there that definitely, in my opinion, shouldn't be washed over. That, Gypsy was the lesser of the two. She was the junior partner in crime up until the point where she committed her own crime.
Okay. Okay.
Fair?
Okay. Yeah, fair. Except, well, I'll agree with you on that one. I'll go there with you. I have, what we did do was, like, why didn't she leave 5 years before? She knew her age. That's a huge thing, because she was born in 1991. The crime occurred in 2015.
I could only imagine when she turned 18, she may not even know she was 18.
No,
right?
I'm not buying into that. She knew how old she was. She knew how old
maybe I don't know, but maybe she didn't have it factored. For me, when I turned 16, that was a huge thing. I was looking forward to that. But maybe for this daughter and mother situation, it was something that was suppressed, and she was better at planned ignoring her own age because she was getting somewheres playing a broken child. And again, I would say I'm going to put some of that on Dee Dee, because I know my parents, you're 18, out the door. They didn't want you around. Those people, I know someone specifically 18 years old left.
Gypsy was sick. You have to remember, Gypsy was still sick. They didn't have her diagnosis until they didn't have the complete diagnosis, I think, until 2013, I want to say.
That's the factor maybe why she didn't want to leave right at 18. Because I know when you're a kid, you're excited, you want to do things. I'm either going to go to
She
college.
doesn't want to go anywhere, Gypsy, because she's in a wheelchair and she gets up and dances and stuff in videos and stuff. So she knows she doesn't need the wheelchair.
So she's got a learned helplessness. And to some degree, she learned it in order to play her part. And there is a small
Why
amount of
couldn't she have
compassion.
just been legitimately sick, Phil? Why couldn't she have just been legitimately sick and her mom
Because
was
you could be
working on trying to
legitimately
find, wait a
sick
minute,
and not.
and her mom was trying to find out, why does my daughter stop breathing at night? Why is my daughter having a problem eating and swallowing? Why does my daughter drool crazy? Why does my daughter's eyes are crossed? What's going on? Like,
But you can be sick without necessarily committing a grift. She was all about getting that prize money. She was all about
I don't
getting that
think
charity.
that
She was
that's
all about putting her child's illness there, and the daughter played her role when she
okay.
didn't have to play the role. And
So
the
you and
mother,
I,
the mother sanctioned that.
hang on, let me get
There's
my water.
culpability there, in my opinion. All right.
Listen, you're being way too kind to Gypsy Rose Blanchard here, in my opinion. But listen. I don't have a problem. I think that
No, she's a murderer. All right. She's
touche.
above a matricide. All right. She influenced a human being who didn't live with
At
her,
the
wasn't
very
in her
least,
life,
at the
had
very
nothing,
least,
no
at the very
long-term
least,
relationship with her to kill her mother. And that is
at the very
clear.
least.
That is the state of Missouri clearly messed that up. They fucked up. The state of Missouri did not get that right.
Let me
And
get
they
another
should have,
touche.
well, to some
Touche.
degree. Touche, all right. Or just touche, if you want to. But yeah,
Touche.
I see her as a murderer. I'm not gonna, but I also am a human being, and I see the humanity of it, and I see a mother and a daughter in a complex. And like I said, it's incredibly nebulous, but there's an academic study there to understand why a daughter would kill her mother, and what
And see,
layers
you,
are influencing.
but you and I. Well, first of all, I do believe that there's bad seeds, and you don't. So okay, and so we're not going to agree on that. Not this is not the argument for that, but I will say that
Well, we can
I
we can
I don't think
consider
I don't think that
this.
I don't think that I think that what you call a grift, and it would be a grift, even just changing the date of her birth date, just changing that, which I think is what she did. That's so far, that's what I think she's done. Okay, so just by that, or even by saying, and I'll even give you okay, Gypsy, training Gypsy, not training Gypsy, but if Gypsy, honey, if you look a little sicker, maybe all that stuff happened. Maybe that. Okay. So, and maybe Dee Dee writing letters, but I do believe that Dee Dee was very, very concerned about, Gypsy and, her,
And you made the
her
point. She was
physical.
intuitive. She picked up on something
Well,
that they then later found out.
no. There was stuff. No, that wasn't it. There were symptoms, Phil. There were legitimate symptoms. They couldn't pinpoint what was causing it. There were legitimate symptoms. I mean, that's why she had 4 surgeries.
But even going back to when she was a little baby, she always had she knew there was something there.
She had the micro deletion.
I
She
will
had a
give the
micro
mother credit.
deletion.
The intuition of a mother is there. I mean, that's.
Well, also in the fact that, I mean, you looked at your daughter and she looked a little different too. Her head was smaller. Like there, I'm telling you, it was.
No. Look, when I
There are
first
those,
saw the
those
actual
twins,
picture of her,
those circus twins that have the real small heads. You know what I'm talking about? That's what Gypsy has, but not to that extent.
I work with developmentally disabled folk, and
I'm
I've
gonna,
worked
but I
I've
want
worked
to
with
look it up so
kids
I can tell you
who,
what it is.
and
I can tell you
when
what
I
it is.
first saw Gypsy's picture, she actually reminded me of someone who was bedridden and also salivated, and did not wasn't coherent. Actually, she was profoundly disabled, and the same look in her face, the same wide eyes, and the same. There was any number of things that I was like, I was struck at how, and that was a memory. 40 years old. That was one of the first jobs I held. More like 50 years now. That was one of the first jobs I held where I was around folk like
Here
that.
it is. Wait a minute. Pip
I
and
was
Flip.
forever changed.
Pip and Flip. They have microcephaly. That's what I said it was last time. They were known as the pinheads due to microcephaly, often marketed as being from Yucatan, Mexico. Hang on. You know who these people are. You know who they are.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing a picture of them like on a Guinness thing or some other thing,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. Now, Gypsy doesn't have it that bad, but that's what so there was legitimate things that were wrong, and they weren't able to find out that it was from a micro deletion and exactly which chromosome was a problem there, which chromosome carried it. So they didn't diagnose that until I'm pretty sure 2013. So there was continued ailments. But I think it's also fair to say that Gypsy wasn't isolated. Dee Dee used to do these things on Friday night where she would have people come from the neighborhood and stuff, so that Gypsy had friends come, and they used to do movie nights and stuff like that. And everybody that says something about Dee Dee says that she would have given you the shirt off her back.
But does that
Let me ask
give
you this.
her a pass on what kind of crime she might have been? The kind of person that she was, that perpetuated deceit and hid behind deceit, that didn't relate at a level that was above board to even her own daughter. And
Okay, so
this child grows up with deficiencies as a result. The child has limitations that are baked in because it's serving a purpose. And that's where the Munchausen accusation came in, as far as the legalities go, is because they were able to make a case that it served a purpose.
that's not what Munchausen is. That's That's
No.
malingering. That's
They made a
malingering.
case. You mistook me. They made a case showing that it served a purpose for the mother to be about the daughter's illness to the degree that she was. And so when the daughter said, my mother was doing this, they believed her. They took that and added as well evidence to reduce her sentence, or whatever the fuck they did.
She didn't say anything
played
like
whatever
that
fucking they game on.
until she didn't say anything like that until somebody told her that. When she got arrested, she didn't say anything bad about her mom at all until the lawyer came up with this. I mean, that you can hear on the phone and everything. There wasn't anything about that. She loved her mom. I mean, through until this became her defense. That's what I'm saying. And until this became her defense. So, what? Let me ask you this. So, let me ask you.
One of her doctors before that had ever said anything.
One doctor out of all the doctors. Now, she went to several doctors because she had several different things wrong with her that they were trying to figure out. One doctor. And one doctor said she's not a very good historian, but I think they were talking about Gypsy. They might have been talking about Dee Dee, but just out of one. So maybe she didn't have her notes that day. And she said something like, I'd have to look back on my notes. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? She had her own ailments too later. Dee Dee had her own sicknesses as well later on. So, all right. So let me ask you this. Why would Gypsy, after Nick unalived her mom, why would Gypsy later say to Nick that her mom was a really good person after the unaliving?
It could be any number of things from guilt to remorse or some other variation. I mean, you know, for whatever it would take for her to have wanted and set it up and stimulated and put all the elements in place and even put the knife in the kid's hand, for whatever it did that took that, she has to break any number of times over the rest of her lifetime in trying to process that. And
So
her guilt, her shame, her remorse, all that's got to come together as one solid thing if she is actually a feeling person. If she's a sociopath, if she's got some other medical condition, then
right.
she's not going to be someone that's going to ever have compassion for her mother. But maybe she's saying that to him out of some process by which she's starting to feel her own guilt.
Well, she's
You don't
never
like that.
felt.
You didn't like that at all. I can see
No,
that.
because she's never felt guilty about it.
Explaining Gypsy
Wait
as
a
a
minute,
human
wait a
being
minute,
is,
wait a minute. Let me respond. She's doubled down. She's doubled down on the crime, and I think she did it because she was messing with Nick's head. You know, they were only together 3 days after. Immediately after the crime, they have sex. They did a video. I mean, there's a video, so we know that they had sex that night. Nick had said that he couldn't rise to the occasion because he felt horrible about what happened. Okay. And then it was later that Gypsy was telling him, I guess, how good her mom was.
I mean, it's particularly twisted. And it's kind of fucked up beyond any recognition, to be honest with you. And I'm going to say it out loud like that because that's, I mean, the girl is definitely, she's sick, she's twisted, she don't know right from wrong. She's trying to figure it out for herself. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I would like to assign some level of humanity to her, as is my nature for all human beings that I meet, and
So
even the ones that wrong me, even the ones that are hard, that
okay,
you
so
process. I still see them as human beings.
okay, so let's go to, you don't see everybody as a human being because before this all started, something came out of your mouth. So that's not always true. Just in all fairness, you are upset about the state of the world.
No, you mistook that again. I will see them as a human being, but I will vilify behavior. Your behavior is bad. I quoted Julia Louis-Dreyfus when she said, "I love men, only well-behaved men." And I respect that. I completely understood what she meant. I felt it intuitively in my bones. There's a Me Too understanding of your maleness, of who you are and what we are as men, to be behaved and to
Okay.
refine our behavior, to learn that. But it's about that. I will vilify behavior. I will slam you if you're evil with your behavior. That's the case. But I still try to see you as a human being. I'm going to make every effort to see whether she can be rehabilitated, whether she can.
Okay, so that's the next question. The next question is, so where does all of this go, being that she's never gone to therapy?
She's gotten away with murder.
So you're missing the question. She's not gone to therapy or anything. I've just explained how she was when the night of the crime, what happened, in the hotel room and the videotape and all of that, and what she did to Nick and all of that. And you said something about rehabilitation. She spent 10 years, 8.5 in prison. She had no therapy. She said she's had no therapy.
Right,
So,
but you understand.
and wait a minute, let me finish. And let me finish. And still, the only therapy that I've ever heard her say she's had was a couple therapy with the baby daddy, who she's with now. So where did that behavior go? It's still there, right?
What you're failing to see is that her 8 years in prison those 8 years, she spent more time as an adult away from her mother and the life that she had. And she had so maligned her life with her mother as being this thing that was causing her greater pain than even prison. So prison was relief
Oh my
from the
God.
life that she had. That was actually her therapy initially, to have a sense of herself free from all of that.
I
And
think you read something. I think you
no, I
read
haven't read.
something.
I'm just
Okay.
giving you, just my take of it. All right, and I did hear some good interviews of people that were looking at this, and there's lots out there. There is academic study on this because people want to understand, how does a daughter kill her mother, and what can we do about it? What little wrench can we give a mother early in her life that she can go, don't put yourself in this situation. That's an ugly and evil thing to say, but we're human beings. This is kind of what we do. We try to figure shit out like that. We don't want our daughters killing our mothers. We don't want fathers
Thank
killing
God it's not an
their sons.
epidemic, man. Thank God it's not
Reality
an
of that.
epidemic. So, in other words, you think she got her therapy just by being away from her mom, and that behavior's all gone now?
Well, it's not that it's gone. No, 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 no. She's got a twist and a sickness, and murder doesn't go away like that in your soul.
Well, that's what I'm
Um,
asking you. So, how is
yeah,
it?
no, no, no.
How?
I just think that 8 years gave her a reprieve to discover a little bit more about what she is as a human being, to become who she is, and that's an ongoing process. Does she get rehabilitated? Does she get therapy? It doesn't even sound like she actually has admitted the crime. So how do you get rehabilitation if you haven't admitted the crime? If she were to say, "Oh, I definitely stirred him on, and I wanted to get rid of my mother," and if she took responsibility, maybe she can begin the process. But until she does something like that, she's gotten away with murder. And is there any force in the universe that's going to help her come to terms with that? I only like to think that that would be one that's from within. Her own conscience would be the greatest force that make her come to terms with that.
Some jail calls have come out and some emails have come out. So she had a scam going on in prison. Just so you know,
Oh well,
she
she's a grifter. She learned well.
she. We're just gonna keep throwing this shit all over Dee Dee, regardless of anything. All right, okay, all
No, no,
right.
no. I'm not putting anything on her. She
You
learned.
just did. You
No,
just
no,
did.
she
You just
learned from the
did.
grift. She learned from the grift. She didn't necessarily learn everything from her mother. She clearly started to pick up and learn shit after she stopped playing the role in mother. She might have learned shit in jail. She learned well. She learned how to be a grifter. She learned how to be a scam artist. And if she had something going on in jail, I wouldn't put it past her.
Well, okay. I think that this is I could I just so many things you've said that. So one thing you said that people are just going to grab onto, and I just want to say this because I want to be fair.
Okay.
So one of Gypsy's mindless minions, for lack of a better term, or henchmen, some people call, said what you said in regard to the 70s or the lyrics that made the change with the Ozzy Osbourne song. Remember the song, the suicide song, and the kid took his life, and the parents wanted to sue, and that's what caused
Yeah,
the
I did in reference to that is one of those that, because society's trying to find influences, right? So they looked at lyrics, and they looked at rap lyrics, and clearly I remember the whole Satanic Panic, the albums being turned backwards, and Ozzy
no no
saying
no 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 no. I'm not even
bullshit.
talking about that. I'm not even
I
talking
know,
about
but
that.
they're looking for cause for bad behavior. They're looking at things like lyrics and video games, and they're blaming shit like that. I was just making reference to that. So he said something like that.
No, she did. She said that that um kind of like saying that because people are saying Gypsy shouldn't be online, she shouldn't be an influencer. What is she influencing? She's infamous for unaliving her mom. Like, she shouldn't have a platform to speak, especially, I don't care. Here's the thing. A lot of her crime was committed online. So that should have been, in my opinion, something that should have been part of her, not, her continuing on in life, whether she gets parole, and that was part of the parole, which it wasn't even part of the parole. And it certainly wasn't a condition on her getting out. So her getting these things, her getting this, hang on. So the fact that wasn't imposed on her, it's kind of not up to anybody to impose it on her. I don't care that she's online. I care that she does damage online. I care that she's still trying to change a narrative and it's untruths. And I care that her mom's legacy just gets destroyed. I care that she is an influencer on people that can be easily influenced, because I don't think she's a good person. I think she is a bad seed. So that's where my issue comes into play. But what her friend said, so this is what her friend said. Her friend said, well, it's kind of like Ozzy Osbourne and the case where the kid unalived himself, unfortunately, and the parents blamed the Ozzy Osbourne lyrics. And that's why I'm bringing, and you kind of said something like that. That's why I was like, I had a look on my face when you said that, and I'm like, oh my God, okay. So I just want you to know that.
Society wants to find cause.
You can't hold it in forever, my friend.
No, I couldn't hold the coffin anymore.
You're turning really bright red.
People, they want to find cause. This is an ugly, evil thing, right? So it's a wrong thing. You want to find. So they look at everything, things like rap music, games. Those are easy things to blame, and it's often used by, contingencies that want to use voting blocks and political power and shit. It's very fucked up. But here in this, people are morbid. They're going to go online and they're going to gawk at a mother killer. And if she's going to put on a little show, people are going to put coins in the hat. That's just what people do. They're ugly that way. You standing up for the mother and the divine mother who cared for her daughter and was eventually proven right medically because they found something, that's a beautiful and noble thing. I give you credit for that.
Yeah, they found more than, something, obviously. And let me just be clear that,
okay.
But I want to say this a million times. I want to say this. Had Gypsy had just stopped talking, nobody would be looking in at anything. The problem is every story she told was a different story than the one she told before. So that's where people were like, huh, what? And it was a lot of people. Because I've asked every content creator that has come on my show or that I've been on their show, like, what was it that made you start being interested? Oh, when she said this and then she said this, and it was like, right? And then she said something different in her book than she said in the documentaries. So there was just like all of this.
Yeah, she sounds like a habitual liar as well.
So pathological, I'm pretty sure.
And that's, she doesn't have the ability to see right from wrong. She needs therapy. She needs that without a doubt.
I thought you were going to blame Dee Dee on that one too.
Well, sins of the father. I can't blame everything on the child. You can't blame everything on the parent.
You haven't blamed anything on her. You haven't blamed anything on her. What have you blamed on? What have you blamed on, Gypsy?
Wait. I'm not blaming. It's you look for cause. You look for influences. You look for things that lead to the kinds of choices that you had that nourish your mind. This is why your parents, they decide whether or not to leave you alone when you're 14 or 15. Are you old enough to handle? And they know the contents of your mind, and then they make the determination, okay, we can leave you alone at 14 or 15 or whatever it was that you first started being left alone. It's a very similar thing to some degree. This person is developing outside of that influence, but that influence is there. Is it blame? Are you sure people want to make blame? There's legal problems. There's horrible murder. People do blame. That's what they do. But me, I'm interested in the influence. When you told me about the story, it's fascinating to that degree. I certainly didn't appreciate the kind of wanting to make her a bad seed from the beginning, because that seems antithetical to being a human being. When you're a human being, you literally are born empty and you get filled with things around you in life. Now, she has made bad choices. She clearly is being pointed out as a liar, as someone who can't tell the truth. These are ongoing. Can we look at some of the causes of why she can't tell the truth and doesn't know right from wrong? Sure. Is some of them related to family, how she lived? More than likely. Do you think that I'm actually going to disparage the mother by saying something that she didn't learn right and wrong? Because the apples sometimes don't fall off the tree. I'm not, no. That's blame. I don't want to do that. But there is cause. There are influences, and there are things we can learn from. And Gypsy, clearly, she's still producing this false life, right? And needs to be called out. That is a noble thing that you're doing that way.
No, don't call me names. Okay, let's get into something else.
Well, I mean,
Let's
you can get
just.
you an award if you want.
We're gonna end this.
I need to laugh. I need humor.
That's fine. It's okay. We will, but we'll end this here.
Okay.
Okay. So, Phil, thank you as always, and say goodbye, Phil.
I appreciate everybody's concern. Clearly, I think because we contribute at large, that everybody's concern, compassionate interest in a situation like this does provide some level of reverence for life and the loss of Dee Dee's life, and the harm that Gypsy has caused needs to follow her through the rest of her life. This is clearly what this community is about, and I definitely can respect that. So thank you for the opportunity.